All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're in the Mojave Desert and this Lexus GX460 to talk about the Land Cruiser. Now, recently, the new Land Cruiser coming to America, known as the Land Cruiser 250, has been announced, but that's not really a Land Cruiser, and most die-hard Land Cruiser fans are upset that it's not the real Land Cruiser that's coming to America, which is known in the world market as the Land Cruiser 300. So today, I'm actually going to talk about how you can get the closest thing to the real Land Cruiser in America, and that is we're going to compare the Lexus GX550 with the Lexus LX600. So this is going to be a GX550 versus Lexus LX, let's turn here, versus a Lexus LX600. So first of all, why the comparison? Well, if you know anything about Land Cruiser, you know that the real Land Cruiser is the Land Cruiser 300, and the closest iterations you can get to that are the upcoming GX550 and the Lexus LX600. Now, the Lexus LX600 is currently being sold on the market right now, and the GX550 should be announced, or should be coming out, I think, after the new year. But who knows by the time, with all the hype, when they actually get on the dealer lots, probably around March of 2024. So let's jump right into it and talk about the differences between the real Land Cruisers here in America. So let's start right away with the currently available Lexus LX600. The LX600 is indeed based on the world market Land Cruiser 300. It has the same twin-turbo V6 engine, so it has the real Land Cruiser engine. The frame is exactly the same. It's on the TNGA-F platform. It has a locking center differential, it has 8-track, and it has a bunch of luxury features. So what's the primary difference between that and the GX550, which also has that twin-turbo V6? It also has a locking center differential. It also has the luxury and 8-track and all that good stuff. So what are the differences between the two? First thing to highlight is the wheelbases are exactly the same. So I know I said the frame is the same, but the stuff that matters, the wheelbase, is exactly the same, roughly around 112 inches. These vehicles are very, very similar. However, the Lexus LX600 loses some major off-roading stuff in its importation here to America. The first and most important thing that it loses is the front and rear locker. So the LX600 does not have a front and rear locker. It has a center locker, and of course it has 8-track on the front and rear axles, and to many people that's good enough. This GX460 does not have front and rear lockers. Lexus removed them, or excuse me, Toyota removed them on most of their full-size Land Cruiser that is locking differentials 23 years ago, and replaced it with 8-track, which is a phenomenal system. So what's the big deal? Who cares if the LX600 doesn't have lockers? Well, that's not a big deal, really. The bigger deal is the fact that the LX600 does not have the EKD-SS system. So Lexus completely dropped Toyota's phenomenal KDSS system, which is on this GX, and their new generation of the KDSS is called E for electronic KDSS. What does all that rambling mean? If you don't know, it's simply a front and rear sway bar disconnect, which is crucial off-road because every bit of articulation matters when you're off-road like I am now. You want those tires and wheels to flex and hit the surface. Toyota is well aware that you're not going to need any lockers or traction aids at all if the tires simply hit the ground. Lexus has decided to not bring over the EKD-SS system on the LX600. So your LX600 is essentially a Land Cruiser 300 minus the front and rear locker and minus the EKD-SS. That's essentially it. Yes, there's some other differences, but those are the main big differences. You're not going to get that disconnecting front and rear sway bar on your LX600. So as far as off-roading goes, that's a deal breaker for most people. I know it is for me because articulation, like I said, is everything. If there's one thing you got to have off-road, it's that articulation. It's not on the LX600. Now, by comparison, the GX550, and I'm speaking specifically of the Overtrail edition, not the other trims, but the GX550 Overtrail edition, as we said, has the same engine and a bunch of other same stuff, same platform, blah, blah, blah. But it does include the rear locker, and it does include EKDSS, which is absolutely phenomenally awesome. Because as you can see, on roads like these where I'm going down and around and we're undulating all over the place, you want that articulation. Articulation means no drama, and your GX550 is going to come with that phenomenal EKDSS disconnecting front and rear sway bar. In addition, it comes with a rear locker, not the front locker on the from the Land Cruiser 300. They didn't bring over the front locker, unfortunately. Perhaps they'll bring it over on the GX550 with later year updates, but for now you only get the rear locker, but you do get that EKDSS. All right, so what about the LX600? What else does that get? Well, that gets a third row, so if you're down with a third row, you're going to get that on your LX600. What's the big deal about a third row? The GX550 in its Overtrail edition that we're comparing it to here does not have a third row. GX550 Overtrail, 550 Overtrail only has 2 rows. Some people see that as a plus because they get more space. Some people see it as a minus because they can't carry the kids and in-laws and whoever else in an emergency. I'm in that camp too. I want the 3 rows that fold down. My third row is folded flat. We keep it folded flat, but I've never been in a situation where I'm like, where I needed a third row and had it and said, you know, boy, I wish I didn't have this third row. There's plenty of room with fold down third seats, but that's just my opinion. So let's not go on about that. So what else does the Lexus LX600 offer in comparison to the GX550 Overtrail edition? Well, the luxury appointments are about the same because they're both Lexuses. They're both going to get that Mark Levinson stereo, yada, yada, blah, 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 as far as that goes. So you can't really argue on the lux. You know, you're getting the Mark Levinson, like in this GX, which is phenomenal, by the way. So everybody loves the Mark Levinson. You're getting that. You're getting all the creature comforts, the leather, the sunroof, everything, the cool box, it's all there. So there's not that much more that the LX600 offers to buyers in the luxury department. So there's not really a luxury argument there. However, you can get the LX600 in its ultra luxury trim or whatever they're calling it, that's retailing for something like 140 grand before taxes. So what that does is basically knock out the middle row seats and basically puts in beds in the back. So they're calling them ottomans. So this is essentially turns the LX600 into a executive car or chauffeur car, whatever the euphemism is for these days, for people that want to ride around in the back and have their driver drive around all over the place. If you're in that camp, then that may appeal to you. And if you're in that camp, you're probably never going off-road anyway, and maybe it makes sense, I don't know. My wife used to work for a professional football team, and of all the football players, she said only one got chauffeured around, and that was his, you know, he had an entourage, and some of his buddies just dropped him off at work, you know, to train every once in a while. All the other football players drove themselves in their own luxury cars or whatever the heck they had. But this, again, it may appeal to some people. I think personally that is a bit of a cultural thing. People don't like to, no matter, you know, what league they're balling in America, they like to drive themselves around in the Rolls Royce or whatever. They don't really like being chauffeured, and if they're going to be chauffeured, they're going to go ahead and get a limo service or something like that, and you know, just not have a driver and drive you around in your Lexus LX600. Now, I know in other cultures that's not the case. There is a culture of getting driven around in your personal vehicle. So it's weird that Lexus chose to bring that 4-seater ultra luxury to America, and I think it is going to sell absolutely horrendously. So the Lexus LX600 is just a pile of junk, right? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm trying to imply here. The Lexus LX600, if you're not intending to ever do any hardcore off-roading, is absolutely fabulous. In particular, it's fabulous because it has a Toyota exclusive full-time 4-wheel drive.
So that is a primarily on-road feature, not an off-road feature. So if you live in a climate that has ice, snow, whatever type of on-road weather condition, and you want to just absolutely dominate it, get an LX600 with its full-time four-wheel drive system. It laughs at all sorts of adverse road conditions. If you're unfamiliar with this full-time four-wheel drive system, it is essentially a true all-wheel drive system. Now, I know what you're thinking. All modern cars have four-wheel drive. Not so. Those are slip and grip systems that need to react to a problem in order to allow the other wheels to turn. Basically, they default to two-wheel drive. And then when they feel there's a problem, a slip, they'll engage clutches or a viscous coupling to then activate the other two wheels. This Lexus full-time four-wheel drive system is not like that. It's a one of a kind. It's a Torsen Type C center differential, which allows all four wheels all the time on road to be going. It's a 60-40 split. There's no clutches, there's no viscous couplings. It's a mechanical engagement all the time. And no other car has this other than Toyota, because Toyota owns Torsen through their JTEC subsidiary. They bought it a few years back. So only Toyota products can have this fabulous full-time four-wheel drive system. That's why they don't call it all-wheel drive. It's so special and unique to Toyota and Torsen that they call it something grander, full-time four-wheel drive. And that Lexus LX600 has that. It will absolutely own on-road adverse conditions. So that alone is worth the price of admission to get if you're into the LX600. Another argument for the Lexus LX600 can be the ultra-luxury trim, which arguably is what Lexus is saying it is, which is it's an ultra-luxury. So even though that and the GX550 are luxury and Lexus's, if you look inside that Lexus LX600 Ultra Luxury, I don't know what's going on with those seats, but they look one of a kind. It looks like they stepped it up a notch. So depending on how you feel about it, you might find the Lexus LX600 to be in a league of its own insofar as luxury is concerned compared to the GX550's version of luxury.
So let's bring this together and let's get the big takeaway here. And I'll be as frank as possible. The LX600 is just as watered down as far as a Land Cruiser is concerned as the Land Cruiser 250 is watered down as in comparison to a Land Cruiser. So if that rambling didn't make sense, they took away so much stuff from the Lexus LX. If I've been calling it LS, forgive me, LX600. They took away so much from the LX600 versus the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport that it's pretty much a joke. You've got to be clueless to what you're missing from the Land Cruiser 300 to think the Lexus LX600 is a good deal, especially in its luxury trim. So very few people are going to be, wow, look at that. They brought over the Land Cruiser here, but they got rid of the major off-road features, such as the locking diffs and the disconnectable sway bars. Great, I'll take one. When you compare that with the Lexus GX550 Overtrail, which has all that luxury still, and you're getting a rear locker and that fabulous disconnecting front and rear sway bar, the choice is simple. Get the Lexus GX550. Unless for some reason you're absolutely positively in love with the look or styling of the LX600, I can see no practical reason to get it. Because again, we cannot make any luxury arguments when both are Lexuses. You can't be like, well, the LX600 has more lux. No, it doesn't. It's missing a bunch of stuff and it costs a lot more. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. You know, the differences aren't night and day, but do keep in mind that the vehicle that this is based off of is the Land Cruiser 300. And yes, we all wish that Toyota would have just brought over the Land Cruiser 300, trim it out, but bring over the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport and then trim it lower and stop playing around with what they're bringing and what they're deleting and blah, blah, blah. I'm rambling. All right. If you found this video helpful, useful, or entertaining, please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a great, great day.
At my door, I've been feeling the boom. Just a little after 4. So what's up with that core was really just bored. Yo, break out the sword and let's go cruising in your Ford. Watch out, yeah, sweet snow is the deal. As she shouted, it's the funky lesson 1 to the grill. I should have known that something wasn't right in walking. The biggity boom was just ticking and clocking. A night boy in plaid is passed from his dad. Another straight in the fight, man, but he wasn't from the right clan. To stop all the nonsense, defense is my defense. Oh yeah, I know the mode is daily dense. Time has passed on, but it's been a million days. We're still knifed and divided, running round in haze. Nothing divided. Nothing divided from the century of the cool cat. Dig down with the cling of the hi-hat. Flip that bass and then they knocking at my door. I've been feeling the boom since a little after 4. So what's up with that core? Was he really bored? Yo, break out the sword. Let's go cruising in your Ford. Yeah, watch out, yo, sweet snow's the deal. As she shouted it out to funky lesson 1 to the crew. I should have known that something wasn't right in walking. The biggity boom drum was just clicking and